Yes, please, George.
This morning, you debunked the conventional wisdom that there is value in the principle turning around the achievement gap, that the issue is really the role and what the teacher does in the classroom. So is there value in the principalship?
Yes. Nah, no. So what are we learning about effective principles? So this is where doing this like science, where you really formulate hypotheses and you really question your own hypotheses systematically. So when we looked at the effective principles as measured by student performance, we found some incredibly surprising things. First of all, almost all the ones in Texas, Aldine and some of the famous places, actually did a stint in their district offices before they became principals. And the characteristics of principals that were ignored by our previous training, which was all about instructional leadership, was the principals who were effective were excellent brokers for their teachers in schools. They were exceptional at creating buffers to protect their schools from all kinds of noise that was going on. And what we had done inadvertently is pick one critical aspect of the principalship, which was instructional leadership, and ignored all the other things that principals have to do 85% of the rest of the time. So we have to get much more sophisticated about the real work of school organizational leadership. What has to happen to keep instruction at the core? And it turns out to be a killer of a job. Everyone loves teachers. No one likes administrators. We need to work as hard on the administrator side as we do on the teacher side, but we need to have a better empirical evidence base for what the job really is, not what we would like it to be.
Yes. Bill Hawley.
As you know, Texas is now a majority, the majority of people that are non-white.
Yes.
To what extent are the materials that you developed and the strategies you use adaptive, if you will? To what extent do you feel that's necessary given the extraordinary mix that you have of race and ethnicity in the state of Texas?
The way the materials are special for language, we have a large number of students who are learning academic English, and that is not just Hispanic students. We have shifted away from thinking of this as an English language learner problem to an academic language learner problem for all. We're stunned to realize that most of our ninth graders did not know what indicate, contrast, structure. They did not know the meaning of those words, the words that scaffold thinking. So we had to build in language instruction and academic vocabulary development into the core mathematics and science materials we've created. The second thing we had to do, and this was really humbling and hard, was it turned out that in too many schools, language learners don't speak at all. So we had to build in routines into the materials where when a student gets something right, the teacher puts it on the board and students practice editing it and code switching and learning to write up answers as if they were in the book. Much more important than it would have been with the students who used to be in algebra 30 years ago. Important then too. The explicit teaching of let x equal constructions, suppose that, the use of if then, the correct mathematical, not the English language use of that. And it turns out when you build those into materials, within a month, kids start saying let x equal. So that was much more important in the setting we're working with. The other stuff is also different in that Texas has a very applied approach, functions approach to its algebra program. California and some states have a very equations-based procedural approach. So our stuff, because it was developed around the thing that teachers found hardest to teach, emphasizes more conceptual work and more function language. Each state has different standards. There's less convergence than we'd like. So California doesn't find this so helpful because it's not what's tested on their tests. This is really aimed at what we as a state decided was important. So that matters too. Maryland actually looks more like Texas and Massachusetts in its standards. But there are big differences. The language stuff, you need to see how much of an issue it is here. I suspect it's more of an issue than people think. But I just don't know because I haven't worked in the state.
I think we have time for one more question. Yes.
Let me ask a question that is perhaps a bit oblique to your task today. You've indicated some very insightful things about closing the gap and improvements. Do you have any observations about the carryover from what you've been doing to issues of another arguably underserved minority, namely gifted and talented students, as key to our country's education?
Yes. I was blessed in middle school to go to NSF-funded programs, like a large number of you, where my love of mathematics was fed and nurtured. I actually had Mary Dolciani at Hunter College for the math people as my middle school math summer teacher. God, could that woman teach? You know, I mean, I fell in love with mathematics. And what we have done as a country, we have focused on removing illiteracy and innumeracy. We've done nothing to instill passion and generate passion in students for math and science. And as a country, we have to make sure that when students do get interested in our work, they have unlimited opportunities to pursue their passions and their interests. So the next wave has to relentlessly continue bringing up students who we failed to serve in the past, but we have to equally work on the high end in our national interest and just as human, the human side. So that has been, in my view, the main problem with the past wave of school reform, is it's not spoken at all to the people who love disciplines and want to pursue them, and to students who end up being gifted because they really work hard at something.
Uri, I just cannot tell you how much we appreciate the great insights you've provided us. I have a feeling that you're going to be getting a lot of calls from Maryland. In fact, I think you're going to become our new adopted son in this state. But on behalf of all of us, let's give fabulous. Great call, great call. Ladies and gentlemen, Secretary Duncan is here, but he'll come in the room in just a few moments. So let me, you've been sitting for an hour and a half, so let me invite you to stand and stretch your legs, but don't go far because we'll start in just a minute.